Tune in to UFO Undercover, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, with your host, Joe Montaldo, right here on the Paranormal Radio Network.
I had had enough.
Well, you drove out there into the middle of nowhere and had some sort of loud verbal display challenging ET in general out in the middle of nowhere?
That's what I was doing. I actually had a pistol in my hand at the time. I was really ticked off. When I was having this fit, I was waving the gun in the air, okay, and I had this fit. And at this moment, I said, okay.
He was a Louisiana man named Montaldo. Folks around called him Six Gun Joe. Worked with ICAR, don't you know? Investigating UFOs. Out for a drive with a gal one night, they stopped to check out the reporting site. When an alien lit right there on the ground, commenced to throwing his weight around. Now, old Six Gun didn't take too kindly to that kind of thing, especially without Vaseline or anything like that, Seriously. Well, Six Gun looked that critter right in the eye and said, "Any last wish before you die?" Yo, reached for his gun, quick as a twitch, and said, "Fill your claw, you son of a bitch." Now, a legend spread across the land about this pistol-waving man. But if you're from space or from Earth below, you don't give no lip to Six Gun Joe.
Welcome to UFO Undercover, with your host, Joe Montaldo.
Well, welcome everyone. I hope everyone's having a great morning, great afternoon, wherever you are on our big, beautiful blue planet. We've been messing with stuff today, so things are just a little weird. Lighting's a little different. It's not going to stay like this. It's a little dark, but it's kind of strange the way things have been going lately. And I've been seeing a lot of stuff in the press, a lot of stuff in the media, all over the place. Aliens are here. They're coming for us. They want to kill us. They want to eat us. They want to destroy us. I'm kind of like, really? Okay, well, that's news to me. I didn't exactly know that was coming, but hey, First off, I want to know what the evidence that even suggests that they're coming for us. I'm just asking because I do a lot of research into this, and it just doesn't seem to be that's what they're actually after, or that's what they're actually doing, or anything along those lines. Let's be honest. If they wanted to take us over, they would have done that a long time ago. They wanted to eat us, kill us, clean us, whatever. They would have done that a long time ago. There's no need for that. And then besides, we want to follow. As a human race, we want to follow. We dumb, stupid little sheeples walking around going, come take me along. That's who we are. We want to act like we're not that way, but all you have to do is look around. It doesn't take much to figure out that most humans are sheeples. It's kind of a sad state of affairs to see where we are today. Let me turn this off so we're not getting dinged. And I just don't want to see us continue on this path, walking around with our heads up in the awares, and or like ostriches with our head in the sand, whatever you want to call it. But the human race is on a bad course, and it can't seem to get off of it. Everybody keeps telling me, I got a lot of friends of mine that are peace, love, and light, or like in my case, love, light, and laughter. But regardless, at this point, none of this is coming true. You can tell me all day long, the alien said to do this, the alien said to do that. Have you looked at the planet? That's always my first response. Have you taken a look at the planet lately? We're in deep doo-doo. and pretty deep at this point. I mean, Russia's over there trying to start a nuclear war. And now we want to get Iran involved and us involved. No, it's just not a good thing. Too many people get involved, it's going to get really, really messy really fast. And ET's not going to save us. And if you don't believe me, take a look around. Did they, okay, first question right off the bat. Did they save Hiroshima and Nagasaki? Did they save them? Let me think. Oh, no, they didn't. We blew the living crap out of them. And one of them, we killed over 55,000 people. We just, in an instant, just, poof, the end of their life, gone, poof. 55,000 lives and just poof. And there was way more than that died. That was just the beginning. They didn't stop that. Okay. Chernobyl, all right, they're going to stop Chernobyl. Oh, nope, they didn't stop Chernobyl. Why? I mean, they could have stopped Chernobyl. They could have even cleaned up Chernobyl, but they didn't. Look at 3 Mile Island. Okay, 3 Mile Island. Nope, they didn't stop 3 Mile Island. Why didn't they stop 3 Mile Island? Okay. Well, here you go. Just recently, just a couple of, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, Fukushima. Did they stop Fukushima? No. Fukushima is still a mess. Why? They have the technology to do it. It's not like they can't do it. We could nuke the whole damn planet. They could probably clean it up in just a handful of years in their time. So, I'm with you. Why won't they help? But that's my point. If they were here to help us, they would be helping us. If they were here to wipe us out, they'd be wiping us out. It would be easy to just take over an accident. Oh, I'm president. Boom, start World War III and it's ended. That doesn't seem to be their goal. Their goal really seems to be more observation with indirect intervention. Meaning whatever family lines they started with over the 200,000 years ago, whenever it was, because no one knows, it could have been 15,000 years ago, it could have been 200,000, it could have been a million years. No one really knows. But the further you go back, the more people become contactees today. So that, the shorter time you go back, the less contactees they are. But anyway, we're gonna figure somewhere between 45,000 and 200,000 years ago. And I think it came in waves, actually. I think the human aliens were the first ones. They found some remnants of what might have been a monkey man. I don't even know what it was. I don't want to even speculate because I really don't have an idea. But we do know because of the writings, in the Sumerian writings, the Egyptian writings, they did have a base animal that they used to create their slave race, which looked like us. Except, they were a little stocky, a little shorter, not too bright. They weren't really sentient in the way we're sentient. I mean, they didn't ask, how come I'm out in the heat in 104 degrees, plowing the field so you can eat and I'm not getting none of it? Or how come I'm doing this or that or whatever? How come I'm being treated this way? They never asked, and it never even occurred to them to ask. That's just not who they were. And then the story started that the reptilians used to come in, steal the women, rape the women, and bring them back pregnant. And then the women would bear children, and those children were different. Now, when I first heard this story so many years ago, I don't even want to say how long ago this was. I mean, we're talking 35 plus years ago. It was the first time I ever heard it. I was like, wow. So they were deformed like and aliens and whatever like. And this is before I knew we had a reptilian section in our brain. Just how long ago this was. And I was like, wow, that is just weird. And then about 4 or 5 years passed. I was listening to the stories, and I actually had some friends who had some connections, I guess we would call them. Probably more like relations, but family relations of some kind. But we just wanted to get a local take on some of these stories out of the Middle East and what they may or may not have been. And the story is very prominent over there. So you get this sense of these beings who were no longer willing to toil the field for no reason. They became aggressive. They wanted to know why they had to do it. Why couldn't they help them? Why did they not help them? And I don't think the slave makers realized what they had done. There was a few of them and literally millions of humans, millions. They had created their own doom. That's probably what happened to the first human colonies. And it wasn't a matter that they couldn't kill us all. There was just so many of them. They were overrun. And that's the way the story seems to go. And then out of that, that's this first sprinkling of man. So that's a creation by the human aliens with part of their DNA and part of whatever DNA. And then the reptilians intervene, and then they have their DNA, which we know we all have a reptilian section in our brain. So we're not even going to argue about that. People all the time, how do you know? No, we don't have a reptilian section of brain. And it's a very important part of our brain. So learn that before you even come arguing with me about it. Because people all the time, I mean, I'll be lecturing somewhere, speaking somewhere, or be on a radio show somewhere, Joe, you're crazy. We're mammals. We don't have no reptilian section of brain. Oh, yes, we most certainly do. And it's not even worth arguing about because it's there. It's part of who and what we are, and it's always going to be part of who and what we are. It helps drive us in being what we are. Sometimes, yeah, somebody asked me the other day, will we be better off without it? I said, no, we'd be slaves. Maybe we'd be better if we could understand it more and control it more. That, maybe so. I don't know. It's hard to say. But regardless, it's there. So now we know there's at least 2 alien races in our DNA. But what's weird is it's still 45,000 years ago backwards, going further back, 45 to 2 million BC or so. Everybody was pretty much brown hair, brown-eyed, brown skin, and Rh positive. They shared a common ancestor. 2% of their genes was from the rhesus monkey, and that might have been the base animal that the human type aliens that were with the Sumerians used. That might have been the base animal, and that would actually explain something we're going to talk about after a while. But so here we are, brown hair, brown-eyed, brown skin, Rh positive people roaming the planet for 2 million years unchecked. So it just tells you how long ago the first encounter with the aliens were. If you believe that we were 2 million years old, then that should tell you that the encounter with the aliens were much older than we knew. Most people don't want to go back more than, say, 50 to 100,000 years, and I don't know. I really don't. All I can say is it seems to be at least 50 to 100,000 years ago that they intervened with our society, which means that they were around long before the Sumerians. Maybe they were even their help devised of the Sumerians. I don't know. Or maybe they were hybrids with Sumerians. There's just no way of knowing because none of us were there. And there's no real writings about it. There's just rumors and stories, but not a lot. It's tough. But still, there is data out there if you really dig hard enough. And of course, you can always go listen to, what's his face? Why can I never remember the guy's name? He's famous. Says that reptilians are here to kill us. No, yeah, David Icke. There you go, David Icke. That's it. Yeah. He was wrong about a couple things because when the translations came through, the second time they were translated, Hebrew translated from a giant planet to either a moon or maybe like a spacecraft of some kind. Big one, mind you, but still. None of us were there, so we don't really know. But we know it wasn't nothing 5 times the size of Earth because Earth wouldn't be here anymore. It would be rubble. So we can already rule that out. That was pretty much easy. When physics allowed you to rule out a lot of these Nerebrus foolishnesses right off the bat. And then people started saying, well, God did it. Well, then it doesn't count. Yeah, it's not science anymore. It's religion, so it doesn't count. I don't know. But anyway, getting back to what we were talking about. So here you have this race now that's emerging. I figured emerged 10 or 15,000 years ago because most of the dates point back. Most of the ancient monuments only line up with their constellations around 12,500 years ago. That's about what it is. So people, 10,000 from the building point, but usually it's about 6,000. But it's weird because that means that all these races we're talking about, the people from Angkor Wat, the Egyptians, the Chinese, and the people who built Easter, all of these people understood the way the planet worked. So they had precession, so they could go forward and backward in time. So somehow or another they were able to go all the way back 6,000, 7,000, 8,000, 9,000 years, depending on when the monument was built, and know that it lined up with this constellation at that time. That's pretty damn good. Because they all line up with those constellations at that time. There's seven that I know of. There's probably more. The most famous ones would be Stonehenge, the Great Pyramids, the Sphinx, and Angkor Wat, and Easter Island. That would be probably the 5 most famous, but there's a few more than that. They just somehow or another they line up with their constellation perfectly with this whatever constellation they line up with at that time period. That's pretty good, man. I don't know. That's pretty serious science, especially for them. I mean, I don't. We use computers to figure that out today. Big, expensive computers to figure that out today. So knowing that, you got to wonder. You just got to look at these people and go, how do they figure this out? And I mean, the Egyptians built what, 4 monuments? 3 to the Great Pyramid, which line up Orion at 12,500 BC, and the Sphinx lines up with Leo at 12,500 BC. I mean, how the hell? I mean, who? And then a lot of Egyptian pharaohs had that weird disease where they had their head way back late. They say that's what the human alien's head looks like. It's just got hair on it usually. I'm just saying, no telling back then. Because in the early days of these things, the aliens probably were prevalent. They probably even walked amongst us. There was nothing to fear. And even today they would have to fear. I mean, the crowds would just, Back then, they would have been gods and treated as gods. Today, some people might treat them as gods, but some people would treat them as invading extraterrestrials. So I'm just, might not be a pretty scene. I don't blame them. I wouldn't want to walk around D.C. or in New Orleans or New York or Chicago or Illinois or well, not Illinois, it's Chicago, L.A., places like that. Would you? Mexico City, Paris, London, Moscow. I mean, would you want to be an extraterrestrial? Hey, I'm Mr. E.T. I'm bopping along. Guess is that 100,000 people running for me? Oh, they must. Oh, wait, why do they have torches and guns? Oh shit! And you're gone. It's not what I want to see. So I'm going on and on about this stuff because we're talking about why in the hell, what would government actually know about aliens? How much do they know? Was Roswell a discovery, or was Roswell a given, or was it something we recovered from the Germans in World War II? Okay, maybe, but probably more likely something we recovered in World War II. We'll talk about that in a little bit too. But the progression here is that the government really, at this point, knows, how can I say it politely, squat about what aliens are doing. It's one of the reasons they decided to go public. They're hoping not so much that the UFO people come forward, but they're hoping that the people like the abduction researchers and all will come forward. Because if anybody's got answers, that's who's got them. The people who are talking to the people who are in contact with them, the real abductees, the real contactees, not the ones who just say they are. There's a lot of hoaxy woaxy folksy woaxies out there, but there's a lot of real ones too. What do you mean a couple thousand? No, man, a couple million at least. I would. If you go by what we were talking about, and they started abducting people way back 2 billion years ago, or we'll just say 50,000 years ago, and they were taking them in family lines only, that would translate into about 15% of the world's population today. 10 to 15%. Yes, that's a lot of people. That doesn't mean they're all being taken at one time. It doesn't mean they're all going to be taken for life, but it means they've all been taken at least a few times, all of them. It's a lot of people. They got in trouble on that show with Alfred Weber because of that, because Alfred Weber decided to do the math. It changed the abduction field for life. I like that. It kind of did, actually. It made researchers not want to talk about the 10 to 15%, is what it did. But it's still, nobody stopped believing that's what it was. They just didn't want to talk about it because it's too hard to explain. Oh, no, I sat there. I was on, not Coast to Coast. It was at midnight in the desert. I actually did the math. I said I was explaining to people what was going on the whole 9 yards. Well, it's complicated, but it's not that complicated. It's not something the ordinary person couldn't know. I mean, I can figure it out. Anybody can figure it out. There's just a lot going on. But the government doesn't really have the people. So, we talk about military abductions, and why would the government take its own citizens? Why would it need military abductions if it had ongoing contact with extraterrestrials and had a working relationship with them? It wouldn't need military abductions, would it? It would not. But it does because it doesn't have that kind of relationship. In the end, ET don't give a good what our government thinks. They don't care. Our government is nothing to them. The only thing they care about is the original family lines that they took over here. So, say we're going to break 8 billion people. I think, is it this year or the beginning of next year? But anyway, we're going to break 8 billion people on this planet. Let's say that 1.5 billion have had contact over the years. So that's the only ones they're interested in. So that means the other 6.5 billion they don't care about, or they don't care what happens to them, or anything else for that matter. Maybe they don't think they're savable. Maybe they only think that many people are savable. I don't know. I wish I knew. Oh, people Dragon Con. That's what that is. There we go. See, I got jealous. Look at that. Dragon Con. Anyway, yeah, there for 4 or 5 days. 4 days. There's a lot of fun. But anyway, moving on. why would the government want to take people? So this is a good time. Let's do a little time traveling back. Good evening. This is Joe Montaldo, and we'll be talking about the Betty and Barney Hill case. In fact, does anybody know what the Betty and Barney Hill case? I know it's getting kind of long in the tooth these days, but let's talk about the Betty and Barney Hill case. So I don't know. About 20 years ago, 25 years ago, I was reintroduced to the Betty and Barney Hill case. I got to thinking about it. There was things about this case that bugged me. And then a friend of mine out of the blue sent me the original recordings of the regressions done by Dr. Simons. I was like, wow, okay, well, isn't this cool? So I listened to these, and this was most interesting. Then one of our directors, she was out of Canada. She found a bunch of the late 60s and early 70s radio interviews that they did. They were really good, too. So I started listening, and I'm thinking, now I've been in the field now at that point for, I don't know, 15, 18, 19, somewhere 18 or 19 years. And I'm thinking, what the hell is this? So I'm listening, and I had just going through a bunch of work from Carla Turner, who was just at that time was just getting into military abductions. When we were talking about it, I mean, she really laid all the groundwork for military abductions, and we'll talk about it too. But here we are in this case, and I'm listening and going. So I was listening to one of the radio interviews, and Betty's talking about these swinging doors in this spaceship, and these drawers that came out, and they had paperback books in it and stuff like that. And then they talk about the procedure. So they took hair and skin samples with a razor. By the way, this is the only time in the whole 40 years I've been in the field that I've heard that, ever. Only time. They took fluid samples, they took blood with needles and stuff like that. And a lot of times when you hear Barney describe him, he's talking about just everyday humans. He's not talking about extraterrestrials at that time. Now, Betty is not the contactee Barney is. I know people get mad as hell at me when I talk about this, but it's true. Betty was not the contactee. Barney was the contactee. That's who they were interested in. They'd been following him since a young man. This had been going on his whole life. Betty didn't even know what this was until she met Barney. Okay, and we know contact is for is lifelong. So we know he was the contactee. He'd been in and out of institutions, and that's how the government was aware of him, because it's hard to find abductees and contactees. If they don't go public, it's almost impossible to find them. So he had been in and out of institutions, and this is back in the 50s. When institutions, all the information was available to the government with just a phone call. So these things were going on. There was probably some program telling them to watch for certain signs or certain things that were being said. And here you've got this young black man talking about this. So anyway, he meets Betty. They get married. He's had contact, a couple of times. And then they go up to Canada. So they're in Canada now. They're at a hotel in Canada. And I loved them. I'm listening. I heard this on 4 different radio news. So the first one, they're talking about the Canadian hotel. And they had a good time and blah, 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 blah. So the guy says, well, what hotel was it? And Barney goes, I don't remember. And he goes, it kind of looked like this, kind of looked like that. And Betty said, I don't really remember. He said, well, why are you saying it kind of looks like that? He said, well, we had breakfast across the street that morning, and I remember looking at the hotel. I said, well, what was the name of the place you had breakfast? Oh, well, they didn't know. Now, maybe you might not remember either one. That's hard for neither one of y'all to remember where you had breakfast, especially if it was a decent breakfast, which they said it was. And they said the hotel was nice. So, I mean, you would remember, but maybe not. So later that day, they're driving along, they're headed back to the United States, and they're lost. So they stop and ask for directions. So Barney describes a cop as a young black policeman. Betty describes him as a white, red-headed Irishman. Curly red-headed Irishman, if I remember correctly. Same cop. Now, what could that be? This is classic alien abduction 101. This is the 60, 70, 80 protocol abduction. This is what you would call it. I mean, this is classic. They had missing time. They had different things. They couldn't remember where they were. They gave opposite descriptions of the officer that they seen. If it was one of them, they didn't call it an officer, so I'm not even sure they thought it was. That's when they lost their time. Now, what makes this important is later that day they crossed into the United States. They're driving along. I think it was Connecticut. Driving along, and this thing comes over. It just sits down, and a set of stairs come down. Now, You don't really hear about stairs coming down on UFOs. Sometimes you might hear about a ramp, but never stairs. And usually it's not even that. They usually just gravitate your ass into the ship. It's usually none of that, to be honest with you. So it's kind of weird to start off with. So that's a flag. So it was like something had shot and stuck to the car and killed the car. But there was marks on the car, which suggests it wasn't alien. Alien don't need to shock your car with a pair of tongs or something. It would just send a beam to it. So this suggested like somebody used a giant, I guess it would have been a taser back then, and hit the car and killed the electricity. And then from there, four guys came over, black shoes. He actually said black boots, black pants, black shirt, black duck-billed cap, and looped their arms under each one of them and walked them back across to the ship and then walked inside. Now, this thing might have been a dirigible or something else, but it wasn't an alien. They go inside, and that's when they talk about swinging doors, opening things, pull down screens, writing with pens and pencils, paper. I've never heard about paper in any alien craft ever, 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 ever. This sounded more to me like classic C to C. We just got some people that had alien contact. Let's check them out. So, to me, the case in the United States of Betty and Barney Hill is the first military abduction to ever happen in the United States, as far as we know. It is. Now, I'm sure Kathleen Mulligan wrote it because she wrote a book that wants to be contrary to it, but we debated on several occasions and have won that easily because we're going by the facts, not by the bullshit. Well, unfortunate. Oh no, I actually like Kathleen. I don't have anything against her. And everybody can write from whatever point of view they want to. That's her business. She was Betty's niece. Well, no, they get mad at me because I don't think Betty was a contactee at all. And a good friend of hers, Avis, which I knew for years and years, used to argue with me. I was like, "Well, I'll talk to her," and I said, "Maybe so, but I'm not thinking so." And, well, sometimes abductees do find each other more and more as time goes on, but back then it would have been a rare thing. Well, there was a lot of weirdness that went on with them. First, they were a black and white couple in the mid to late 60s. Yeah, it's not a healthy thing back in those days. They were invited to the White House. Yes, Barney got invited to the White House. They went to the White House. He was friends with at least three different colonels. One that lived on the premises. Yes, yes, because they knew who he was. They knew he was being taken. They had actually found someone that they could become friends with and buddy up with and hook up with. Barney, I don't know if Barney had an idea or not because I never got to ask him. But that was what was going on. They knew they had him. They had someone to watch and to monitor and to see how this was going on. I think he was really the first one. I really did. Oh, I'm sure it ticks off people when I talk about it, but it's a much plausible explanation for the alien contact because the alien contact, when they try to sell it, just doesn't sell. And then when you listen to Dr. Simons, yes, there's three sets of memories. Yes, alien memories, government memories, and their memories. Yeah, of their regular days. Yeah, it gets sticky, wicky, complicated really fast. But as far as Betty and Barney Hill goes, it's a much more plausible explanation. It explains way more of what was going on. And when you listen to the stuff she says, that you can tell that these are things that they were doing. And the bad part is, for Betty especially, if you listen to an interview in the 70s and listen to what she said, then you listen to an interview in the 90s and listen to what she said, it's a completely different story. She's modernized it to fit today's times. Yes, that almost always. I liked Betty, but I still don't think she was a contactee. No, it's just my opinion, but I don't think she was. I think Barney was a contactee, and we just explained to you all why we thought it was a military abduction here. Well, it's the government. Come on, why wouldn't they? Government's hoping to find something. Maybe an amoeba or something, but they're hoping to find something or get some kind of information on why they were being taken and so on and so forth. Well, I don't know why they took Barney. I mean, it was his family line was touched. Maybe there was an African family line. Maybe there was a Middle Eastern family line. Maybe there was a European, an Asian family line. None of us were there, so none of us know. We don't know who the originals were. Nobody does. Even they don't. Even the contactees families don't. I don't know. I guess you could ask the aliens. Was my family the first? Well, the Greys, so if you're a Grey contactee, you were not in the first. Let's just get that out of the way now. Yes, the reptilians and humans. Yes, they would have been the first ones, and then the Greys probably were sent here to keep them from getting into a damn war. Well, I'm pretty sure the humans were pissed when the Greys gave the slaves the ability to overthrow them. I mean, I don't think they were real happy about that. Well, the planet back then was pristine. It had lots of minerals on it, lots of ores, lots of things they might have needed. A lot of people seem to think they need gold. I don't know. They might. I mean, gold is a very conductive material. Well, most advanced races are not going to probably want it for its wealth. They might want it as a bauble, but more than likely they're going to want it for something else, something crystal-based, electronics, or something. Even your jacks and your radio are better if they're gold-plated. Yes, everything's better with gold, unless it's diamonds. Yes, I agree. Everything's better with diamonds. I don't know. I don't have none, so somebody send me some. I'm poor. I don't have no diamonds. We're going to be giving some books away at the top of the hour, too, and you're going to have to. I'm not going to tell you who it is yet. We'll wait till we get time on it. But there's a friend of mine who comes on the network regular. We do some work with him from time to time. Yeah, we're going to be giving some stuff away at the top of the hour. But anyway, getting back to what we're talking about. So that's the Betty Bourne Hill case laid out for you in a way nobody really likes to talk about it. But it truly does explain what was really going on. And it does explain why the government may have been interested in that particular gentleman. Now, but did we get any technology out of that? No, I don't think the government managed to get anything out of that. Now, here we go. Roswell. This is Roswell. All right. We surely got some technology out of Roswell, right? Don't y'all think? Mm-hmm. Sorry, I need a shot of sugar there, maybe. I'm sorry. No, Roswell to me was weird. A good friend of mine who, rest in peace, DeAndrew, used to tell me about Roswell all the time. We used to talk about it, and then we started arguing about it. And I said, D, you crazy biatch. And we'd fight about it all the time. And D was in charge of the organization. She was the ICAR national director for a long time. She was, if you knew the order, she was my babysitter, basically. She was there to make sure I stayed out of trouble, which was a hard thing back then to do. Let's just be honest about it. But the thing about it is, and she would tell me about it, and I'd listen to it, and I'd hear these different stories, and I'm like, and then one night I was somewhere, Ozarks, I don't know, it was some conference somewhere, some deep, dark conference somewhere in the middle of nowhere. And maybe it was Josh or Tree, I don't remember, but this gentleman came up and introduced himself as a gentleman who worked for the government, and blah, blah, and gave me some credentials, which you never know if that shit's real or not. He starts telling me about Corona and the crash in Corona. I'm like, what do you mean crash in Corona? He said, yeah, it was two crashes that night, one in Roswell and one in Corona. I was like, okay. So he starts telling me, he starts talking about these two Cub Scouts and I guess the dad, or the troop master walked up on this intact saucer. It's like it was kind of like a saucer that had been kind of stretched out, and there was three. I can't remember if he said 3 or 4 bodies laying on the ground that looked human, but they were kind of glowing and kind of melty looking. Their words, not mine. And I was like, wow. Now you got to remember that same night on Mac Brazel's ranch, they supposedly found 3 or 4 graves. One that was still alive. I believe the other 3 were kind of in pieces, and there was bits and pieces of spacecraft all over the place. Okay, well, let's do a little physics. I actually brought this up with Michio Keiko in a hand. So you're traveling, say, through wormholes, or you're traveling faster than light. Odds are, if your ship impacted on a planet, it would not break up. I'm sorry, but it would not. It would come in at just one big chunk, and that's what it would be. Because whatever material it's made out of is much stronger than the impact surface it's going to hit. Our surface is going to give way to it because it's just all you can do is hope it slows down, and but that, or if it skids, it might just skid along and hop along or something. But it's not going to break up, not like that. Now maybe an escape pod or a shuttlecraft of some type. Now if it didn't hit the ground, it may have broke up. That may have been different. So it always bothered me. So when this guy told me about this one in Corona, I was like, wow. So I asked Dee about it. She kind of had heard something about it. And we started checking with everybody we knew. I even asked Stan Freeman about it about a dozen times. And Stan said he had heard something in Corona. But so anyway, a couple of years goes by. I meet a forest ranger from the area who had actually met the people who had seen it. And they were telling them about what they saw before the government had gone out there. Now, this is, like I said, this is 4 or 5 years later from when I was originally told about all of this. So he also said he knew some other people that had met them. I remember he set up. We went to a place in Roswell. They had a bonfire, and we went out and had some cocktails and sat around the bonfire. And they all told me the different stories and stuff of what, because they were children at the time, of what had happened. And I was like, so long story short, no one ever knew what happened to the dad and the 2 kids. They just disappeared. There is a missing person thing on them. It was 3 days after the crash. They just disappeared. They made it home and all, and other people had knew about the story, but they just disappeared off the planet. They were just gone. Nobody knew anything that happened to them. No one could explain it. There wasn't even looking of any kind of any foul play. But they found the car, everything else, clothes, everything. There was just nobody. They couldn't find them. So they were gone. So then I didn't hear about it for a while. And then there was a leak about a craft that had been recovered from the Germans. And when they described the craft, it sounded a lot like the one that crashed in Corona. And I was like, okay, now that's interesting and weird. Now you got to remember something here. The Greys or the reptilians or whoever it is not going to let us keep something that we can wreak havoc with. In other words, if it's something with massive weapons on it or something we can go flying through the cosmos and blowing shit up, no, they're not going to let us keep that. Now, debris from a wrecked shuttle, a craft they might let us keep, or a craft they know we can't operate because we already tried to operate it once and we crashed it, they might not have a problem with that until they may let us hold on to the craft until they figure it comes such a time that we might be able to start backward engineering. That's probably 10 or 15,000 years from now. So I don't think they're really worried about it because a lot of their ships are organic anyway. So it's going to just be hard on us to figure those kind of things out. I mean, we've had it we got it in the end of World War II, so 65, 85, almost 90 years, and we still haven't figured it out yet. Never tried to fly it again, apparently. But we did get technology from it. Not from that, but from the one that crashed and broke up. Because the Roswell paper reported what today would be considered a microchip, fiber optics, and aircraft aluminum. I mean, when they put the pictures in there, they were identical to what we would think of those things today. So out of that crash of whatever that was, we did get that. But that's all we seem to have gotten. We don't seem to have gotten anything else. No particle weapons or laser weapons or anti-gravity or anything along those lines. It just doesn't seem like we've been able to get that from it yet. And however we got, and I think the Greys actually were helping us to try to learn about that ship, and then we crashed it because they were on board. That's the only way they would have been in an escape craft when it happened. Unless they were flying some little puddle jumper trying to shoot it down because we stole it. No, I don't think so. I think they had just at the mothership to grab it. But they let us keep it because there have been no reports of anybody going to take it away from us or anything. You mean Area 51? Maybe it is parked at Area 51. Yeah, maybe it's parked on deck number 2, which, by the way, is about 300 feet underground. How do I know that? I can't tell you. They'd come kill you. I'm serious. Not me. Y'all are the ones to listen. I'm just talking. Oh, no, that's dirty fool. Hey, Moose, how you doing, man? I just seen you texting up there. Well, see, because I look at things differently than people. And I don't assume because such and such said it was true that it's true. I tell people all the time, investigate everything we've done. When we introduced the blood type study and all the other studies we've introduced, I tell people all the time, challenge them. That's what they're there for. Prove us wrong. Show us where. Sorry, God. Show us where we're wrong. Show us where we can be corrected. Show us where you can add more information. It's not what it's about. It's not about being right or wrong. It's about getting the pieces to the puzzle. It's always been about getting the pieces to the puzzle. Finding out what the hell is going on. And frankly, to be honest with you, I would think a handful of researchers on this planet know far more than the government does. I really do. I would say today there are 5 to 7 researchers that probably know 4 or 5 times what the government does, maybe even more than that. And there may even be a few contactees that have never come forward that actually do as well. Because when you go on board the ships, a lot of times they give you access to stuff, advanced technologies. They try to teach you things. If you're on board the ship, you can actually upload information into your brain way there. It's almost like your brain's tapped into the memory system aboard the ship. It's strange technologies. When you hear people talk about it, you can tell it's alien because it's nothing like we've ever thought about, even heard about. Some of the stuff I've thought about, maybe we should write a book and do a movie or something. Not just great stuff. Well, they have like on some of the big gray ships, the big motherships, they're real tall, so they have these gardens set up down the thing. They have like flowing water stuff. Well, sometimes it shifts and the water actually flows up, and the gardens will move past each other. They aerate the place, and everybody says the air doesn't have a smell, but it always smells crisp and clean. So it always confuses me. Well, it doesn't have a smell, but it smells crisp and clean. Maybe it's a sense that it is crisp and clean. Well, I don't know if that's a good thing because if your lung gets too nice to the pure happy stuff when you get back on dirty earth, then how's it going to do? That's why I always tell you when people keep their kids too clean, their kids tend to get diseases. That's why your bodies have to build up immunities to things. But the Roswell case was always interesting because it does seem like there's lots of documentation that suggests we brought back a saucer that was either given or somehow retrieved to the Germans right at the turn of the century. And before World War I, they had this thing. And from 1911 to 1913, that particular government went on a saucer building spree. They tried everything they made was in a saucer shape. But none of it seemed to work. And then all that seemed to disappear for a while. And then here comes World War II, and they're actually trying to build. They tried to build 2 jets shaped like whatever this thing is they had that our government got their hands on. We got our hands on a lot of things from the Germans. A lot of stuff that's never been made public. There is a law that says after 75 years, everything has to be made public. But that's not true. We don't make everything public. There are things from there's things from the Civil War that haven't been made public. I would not know why. I could not even begin to tell you why. What could it be? What was it? What do you need to keep a 300-year secret for? Oh, I imagine in the royal family, they had secrets going back 2,000 years, man. Come on. It's just the nature of us to keep secrets, I guess. But I mean, before we move on from Roswell, it's just when you look at this case, you just have to think of this case as that we already had the ship, not that it. Okay, the first thing, lightning knocked it out of the sky. Really? Who would? Really? First, if I was an alien, I would be getting offended. I'm not even gonna lie. I would just be offended that you think some lightning bolt to go knock my ship out of the sky when I can cross through the cosmos and through radiation that we can't even measure, through things that like bullet rockets bouncing off my ship. Energy spikes of large suns passing close. I don't think their ships are that fragile. And if it was something like that, they would have been immediately retrieved. And since they weren't, it suggests that they already knew we had the craft, which also suggests that we recovered it from someone. There was 2 books that came out of Germany that said that the ship was given to them by some human aliens because it wasn't theirs, it was another race's, which the Greys are the ones that used the saucer. So it sounds like they had recovered it somehow or another from wherever, and maybe they didn't want to keep their hands on it because the Greys are kind of bitchy, and the humans are definitely scared of the Greys just like the reptilians are. In the early days, we didn't think that. In the early days, we thought the Greys worked for everybody because we were all 3-foot like automatons running around. Then we found that it wasn't even close to true. There's all kind of Greys, different gray colors. Now, anyway, I digress, but still. It seems like they got their hands on this craft, and then they kept it for however long they kept it until we got our hands on this craft. And now it's still probably sitting in Roswell even today. I mean, not in Roswell, in Area 51 or Area 53. Area 53 is where the tall whites supposedly live. I don't know. I don't think the tall whites would mess with great touch. I don't think so. They don't seem like that kind of alien race. They really just basically use Area 53 as a parking place. Yeah, they give us trickle us a little technology here. Yeah, they're probably in real time, probably 5 or 10,000 years more advanced than we are. Because there's a lot of things when you hear them talk about that sounds a lot like us. And then there's some of their technology that's just definitely more advanced than ours. And it could even be less than that. It could be 2 or 3,000 years more advanced than us. And I don't know how fast we're going to grow. Some people say it's only 400 or 500 years, and that could be true. If we start doubling, triple our technology, it could be true. So, but at this point, we just don't know. But I don't think, regardless, I don't think they would mess with great technology. Oh man, there's all kind. Look, you know, Nevada skies. Actually, Nevada and Utah skies. There's just so much crap flying around out there. It's ridiculous. You can stop anywhere along these roads, like going out to Area 51 or Rachel, or even if you're going up to one of the springs in Utah, and just pull over. There's nothing for miles in any direction. The only lights you're going to see, if depending on where you are, you'll see Las Vegas, and that's because of the airport. You'll see these little stream of white dots going to that direction. Or if you're further up north, you'll see Salt Lake City. But that's about it. I mean, just a dim glow way off in the distance. Other than that, it is stunningly gorgeous skies, and you see things moving all throughout the skies, all over the place. I'm sure some of them meteors and asteroids and every other thing, but in real time, you know, some of them are not. Jeremiah, welcome to the show, man. It's but you know, before we move on again from Roswell, so we went over the Betty and Barney Hill case, and if you know, I've got lots of stuff up about the case. I've talked about this in great detail. Way more beat. And matter of fact, on the ICAR website, there is an actual discussion between myself and Kathleen Malter. So where we debated the ins and outs of this new way I presented it. Actually, a lot of people like it. It was funny when I was on Coast to Coast, my very first Coast to Coast appearance, very first one ever I ever did. This is like 15 years ago. I go on Coast to Coast, and George and I are talking, and I'm telling him about all these cases. I'm just running through UFO cases, right, and new ideas on them. And I said, well, let's talk about the Betty and Barney Hill case. I got these. He said, you're never going to change my mind on Betty and Barney Hill. So, okay. So I went into this, like, we'd just come back from breaks. I'm like in this 15, 18-minute spew nonstop. And Tom goes, break. George is just, he's like, just absorbing it. You can tell. He was like, what the hell? Where did this guy come up with this shit from, man? And then we go to break. And it's the first time he ever talked to me. It's the only time he actually ever talked to me at break. And it was crazy. Because it was definitely a different way of looking at it. And when I present stuff, in all cases, I look at every case differently. It's one of the reasons we busted the Stevensville case. So, you know, I hear all this stuff about Stevensville. I fly up to Stevensville. I go to the all-women's conference in Stevensville. Paula Harris invited me. So I go up. A lot of fun. Had a good time. Met a lot of people. Got to hang out with the ladies. Got lots of pictures. Had a lot of fun. So we go out to this big bonfire later that night. And all the witnesses from the Stevensville were there. So we're talking, and Joe Renard is my cameraman. There's a video up on Facebook and a few other places. So they're talking. So the first thing he's talking about this big shit with this rounded front end, and it's like 3 or 4 stories thick, and he's going on and on about it. He said, you know, it's weird. There's a line of what looks to be rivets all the way wrapping around the whole thing. He said, rivets. I was like, rivets? What? And then he talks about these 2 chase planes that come up and will stand on either side. Okay, first off, rivets, alien craft do not have. They also do not have chase planes that stay with them because usually UFOs leave the chase planes in the dust. So, so I'm kind of like, whoa, wait a minute now. So I got a good friend of mine who works with Bone. She's way up in the thing. So I give her a call while I'm in Stevensville. I play her back the description, and she starts laughing. And she goes, she asked me if my clearance was still good. I said, yeah, it's still good. They background check me every 4 years. Like, where it works. She goes, okay, this is what it is. And so now we can talk about it because then we couldn't. But now we can. So this was a typical Aurora. This was one of the new pulse drive engines. And what gave it away to me wasn't even all the other stuff. They said there was 2 rows of engines. It was 8 and 8. So it was 16 little ports, right? And they said they're beginning to glow orange, and then all of a sudden they went white, and this thing was just gone. It left the chase planes just in the dust. Now, I've heard about the Aurora Ram Scoop engines before. It wasn't the first time I'd heard about them. But I had heard the way they pulse out. And they also leave these weird contrails. They leave a curly Q that keeps expanding in a curly Q. It's crazy looking. So I was like, well, shit, now I know what this is. So stupid me, I was actually invited to speak on a Texas radio show that night. So I get on the show, And I said, man, I found out some interesting information. And I had told him about this before we went on air because, I'm doing the radio myself. I don't like to shock host unless they're just somebody that aggravates me. I just, want to be nice. And he said, well, yeah, let's talk about it. So I get on. And everybody's like, you're kidding me, man. And that theory stuck ever since. And because that's what it was. And there was other reasons why. One, the thing was headed towards George Bush's ranch, and there was nobody scrambling anything. And it was showing up on radar. No one scrambled any jets. We also know there was a squadron of F-16s in the air not far from where this thing was, and they never diverted the F-16. So they knew what it was. Or they knew there was a scheduled flight, a test flight that night. And by the way, most everywhere it had been sighted was over no-fly zones. Military no-fly zones, which overlap a lot of residential areas. So, and then I started getting a reputation as a debunker. I'm like, I'm not a debunker, people. There's lots of good cases out there. I just, like the Shag Harbor case. I love the Shag Harbor case. There's all kind of excellent witnesses from Shag Harbor. There's good cases, the Mexico City case. But there are cases that sometimes are not what we think they are. I don't think Ketzberg was an alien craft. From what I've heard about Ketzberg, it sounded like something we recovered. Well, no, I had all kind of friends up there. Oh, no, it's alien craft. And then Jack sent me this picture that he got from a friend of his, and it looked like an acorn, actually. And I was like, what the hell is this thing? Well, on one of the Russia's, I don't even know if it's still up anymore, but Russia had a display of some of its new satellite technologies, and one of them happened to look like that. It looked a lot like that. It was on the internet. We posted on the internet for a while, put a side-by-side picture. It's probably still up there somewhere. Nothing ever really goes away in the internet. It just gets pushed further back until it becomes irrelevant. Yeah. Well, it's true. It does. It just gets pushed further back. Yeah. So, we're at the top of the hour now. Before we go on, I'm gonna give away. I'm gonna give away a case of books tonight. So let's see. Let me grab a. I'm just gonna grab a random case and see what we get. All right, so yes. So anyway, I think we got 5 of them in here. Let's see. Oh, we're giving away books from now until Christmas. There's only 109 days till Christmas, and these are look at these. What we got here? Oh yes, yeah. This is volume 36. There's a camera at it. Got a lot of screen on it. Of Right of the Future. This is an anthology. There are 12 stories in this one. Actually, I think it's 14 stories in this one. Some fabulosa. Hey, what's that? Some fabulosa artwork. There was some weirdness going on in there. Yep, so we're going to give away 5 of them tonight. So this is, oh yeah, so 5 of these. So what we're going to do here is I have a friend named Emily Goodwin. Okay. So all I want to know is who she is and what she does. Look her up. That's all I can tell you. Emily Goodwin. Yes, Emily Goodwin. The first 5 people who get it right, my email at icarcox.net. Be sure to give me your information, your mailing information, and it will go out within 4 or 5 days. It may even go out before then because I'm going to New Orleans the next couple of days. So, I'm giving away. We're going to be giving away like 5 a show for weeks. Oh yeah, not just we got a bunch of different ones. We have a bunch of volumes, and we got a bunch of other books that were sent in. And people, if you want to donate books to the organization or to the station, you can just write me at icarcox.net, and I'll tell you how to get hold of us. We give them away to online to all kind of people to read, and we also give them to local schools in Louisiana, Mississippi, to help fight off, illiteracy. To be honest with you, they're interesting stories, and there's 12 different stories, so it's not one book. There's 12 different stories. Each artwork is done individually. Every piece of artwork in it is done by a different artist. There's 12 different artists in there, and they also specifically did a piece of artwork for each story. Yes, so check them out. Emily Goodwin is her name. Yes. So if you can figure out who she is and what she does for a living, or who she works for might be better, She works for 2 companies, so you got to get them both. Yes, and I'll send it to you. Wait, what do you mean 2 books? Okay, if you figure out both companies she works for, I'll send you 2 books. How's that? Yes, but anyway, we're still giving away those 5, so that's just a case we opened up. There's a bunch of different cases with different books in them, and then there's all these you see behind me. Most of them are being given away except for, let's see, this one. Yeah, I don't know if you can see it or not. This one is autographed in gold up there by a friend of mine, Echo. There's a couple other autographs, and all the books to the left over there are all autographs. So he doesn't know. Sorry, guys, they're not going anywhere. But anyway, let's get back to what we were talking about. Are you for sure, man? Really, do I have to do that? That is so wrong. I see how I get treated. I'm the owner, and I get treated like this. I know, huh?
You're listening to UFO Undercover with your host, Joe Montaldo, right here on the Paranormal Radio Network.
I'm scared to listen to that. I don't know. I'm waiting. What the hell's going on with this sound thing tonight? I know. I got some weird sound that's going on. Something. Weird headset. But anyway, so let's get back to what does the government actually know? Well, what do you think the government knows? If you've been watching the Congress, the government knows squat. Matter of fact, they're fighting about what they know because they don't even know what they know because they know squat. Well, they've taken people, they've done military abductions, they've followed a lot of other people's research, but they really don't know why they're here. What are these aliens' agendas? Why have they been here so long? What do they hope to get out of us? It's just like, have y'all ever seen Jupiter Ascending? Maybe we're a long-term milking program. But really, what are they after us for? Or are they scared because now we contain reptilian, human, and gray DNA that one day we may be the dominant species in the galaxy? Is that what they're worried about? Will we become light beings in the future? Is that what they're worried about? I mean, in the condition we're in today, you don't want us to have any kind of real power. I would be nervous if we had real power. Do you want a race like this in the cosmos with the power to do what the Greys can do? Oh, hell no. Romaine, to be honest with you, when I first got into this, I always thought, they're taking people against their will, blah, 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 blah. But we do it every day. We do take people against their will, but we also take every kind of animal you can think of. We go dart them, trap them, probe them, stick them, weigh them, clean their ears out, clean their nose out, stick things up their ass. I mean, we do it. And we don't go ask the animal first, can we do it? We just do it. So you have to remember, these races don't look at us much higher than we would look at like a bear or a tiger or anything. They just look at us as, their project. And that's what we are to them. Well, the human aliens tend to think, for the most part, they think we're just like trash cousins, for lack of a better way of saying it. We like the hillbillies. Sorry, hillbillies, I didn't mean to offend you, but I couldn't think of a better name at the time. But to them, we're their trash cousins. And they do have some favorites that they really like, but for the most part, they're just not really into the human race. They think we're egotistical, arrogant, and have a long ways to go. I mean, we haven't even united our planet yet, and we want to think we know everything. The reptilians look at us differently because they still know we're family. We share a bloodline with them, which means that we do retain some genetic memory. Reptilians have genetic memory. It's passed from father to son, and so on, from mother to daughter, and so on, and so on, and so on, or mother to whoever. It's all past, so it's a lot of stuff to remember. And from what I understand, even the reptilians in the beginning have a hard time because sometimes memories seem so real, even though they're not their memories. Well, it happens to humans too. They retain some of this, so they remember some of these things. And they think it's happening to them, but it's not really happening to them. It actually happened to someone else. They're just seeing through their eyes. Well, imagine it's like everything else. If you're a good telepath, you have to learn how to block everybody out eventually and turn it into background noise or something. Or if you're blind, if you're just a blind individual, I imagine you have to adjust your hearing because it becomes so acute that it probably picks up all kind of like air sounds, like shh, things like that. So I would imagine something along those lines. But still, again, here's the Greys, stage right. Why did they come? And are they the ones that introduced RH negative? Are they the ones who gave us RH negative? I mean, as far as we can tell, that happened 35 to 45,000 years ago, out of the blue and for no reason. So was that direct intervention by the Greys? And if so, that changes timelines. Because that means that what the Sumerians, when you talk about the aliens and you talk about the Sumerians, that means the Sumerians are much older than what we thought they were, or some offshoot of them is much older than we thought they were. Or a better way of saying the civilization is much older than we thought it was. Now, we have recently found sunken cities that date back to that magical 12,500 year date. So there does seem to be something significant about that date, and there does seem to be reasonably advanced civilizations on this planet at the time. I don't know what advancement, I don't mean like us, probably like the Egyptians, but it does seem to be there. And as far, yes, there could be more advanced. Whoever sent me that, it's well, we don't know because we weren't there. I mean, we talk about the Atlanteans. It could have been them. Who were the Atlanteans? Whether the Greys, reptilians, humans, were they somebody else? I mean, who were they? Were they really, really advanced us? Well, we don't know. Humans could, there's lots of places that they say there was human footprints underneath dinosaur footprints, which put them back 60, 80, 100 million years. There's also the map of the Pravda map, the map of the Creator, which is supposed to date somewhere 120 million years. It's a resource map taken from an aerial view. Well, humans weren't supposed to be on a planet 120 million years ago. We weren't supposed to be on a planet 2 million years ago. So who the hell was it if it wasn't us? Or was it us? Was it an offshoot of us? Was it reptilians? Who the hell was it? Was it something entirely different than any of the races we're talking about? Whoever they were had feet like ours. At least that's what the mud shows. Could be. What does all that mean? It suggests that the aliens have been coming to our planet a lot longer than we thought they have been. And who the hell are they? And then there's other weird things like, was Mars and Venus habited at one time? Was that how it was? Were they inhabitable planet at one time or another? That's a good question. And there does seem to be, at least for some of us, we may have some ancestry to Martians. Or maybe there's some debris were brought here and some of us like, because a long time ago they had discovered that a lot of humans' biological clock was set to 24 and a quarter hour days. And that their optimal body temperature was about 10 degrees cooler than the optimal body temperature on this planet. So, does anything in the planet fit those categories? Yeah, of course, Mars does. Mars 53 million years ago would have been 10 degrees cooler, and it has a 24 and a quarter hour day, where Earth has a 23 and 3/4 hour day. It's a half-hour different day. But yet, a lot of our biological clocks said that. There used to be more, but it seems like as we breed along, we're becoming more in tune with this planet. Well, maybe that's why guys are so pissed off at us. They're like, look, you're not from here. You didn't evolve here. You evolved somewhere else, and we're transplanted here. Well, the argument for me has always been the same argument when it comes to where we came from. To me, there's three sound ways to go. God created us. Don't hate on me. God created us, and that's how we became. Okay. Panspermia created us. The building blocks of life were brought from other worlds and other places and deposited here on Earth in its rich primordial soup, and we are what sprung for it. Okay. I can go for that too. Or extraterrestrials created us and put us here, or found something like us here and made us better, or created us. Either one of them three works for me. I don't have a problem with either one of the three. I don't. It's up to, any one of those three theories work fine for me. It's one of them things. Oh, here come Blackie. What you doing, child? You evil child. Come on here. My own personal little alien, except she's black and not gray. Yes, look at that alien. I know that is an alien from hell. But anyway, getting back, not knowing exactly where we come from is always interesting. It's always wondered, how we got here. But knowing that somewhere along that line, regardless if they put us here or not, they decided to intervene and get involved in our well, how can we say this politely? Our well-being. How's that? And that's where they came to be today. There seem to be so tied to us. It's kind of like the Americans and the Brits and the Americans and Canadians. Our politics and our militaries are so entangled, it'd be really hard to get them untangled. Well, at this point, these aliens have been here a long time. They've been investing a lot of time in us. And they really know our families much better than we do. Think about it. The gray who abducts you, sorry, the gray who abducts you, or the gray abducts your mom, or the reptilian, whoever it may be, is probably the same one who's been abducting them for 10 or 20,000 years. So, that means they know your family better than you do. And if reincarnation is real, then they may have got to see you reincarnate and recognized your soul. Would that not be interesting? Yes, which means they would know us much better than we know ourselves. I don't know. Well, the way they breed now, you mean do they cheat reincarnation? Maybe they don't need it anymore. Maybe they figured another way around it. One, they have a lot of knowledge and they're accumulating a lot every day. So if you figure our knowledge doubles every 2 years, their knowledge probably goes a Google every 2 years. Yes, I mean they're just on a scale that we won't be on for a long, long time to come. And even the reptilians and humans are still probably leap years ahead of us. Nothing that we can achieve anytime soon. They're definitely in the millions of years more ahead of us. They've just been around longer than we have, and they've been in wars and other technologies. They're part of they're part of a bigger group, so they probably swap and change technologies. So we're just having to come along the hard way. We're on the slow road right now. Is where we are. That's where humans are. We're in the back road, bumping, hilling, scratching our ass. We're just bumping along. They're on the fast lane, and each, because they're all connected now, their technology is doubling much faster, and so it's going to be even harder for us to catch up. But there will come a point where we become interesting to them, that we can travel faster than light, or we can travel through gate technologies, and then we'll be in the cosmos, and they'll really be more interested in us. They'll be taking a look at us, but again, they're not sharing this technology with our government. Anybody who thinks that the aliens are giving our government any technology is completely deluding themselves. And if they say they know somebody who does, that person's been lied to. The Greys do not allow any of the races to share technologies with the government. They consider it something that could be. They don't want to be responsible for wiping us out. Basically, it's how they look at it. They don't want to be. If we want to wipe ourselves out, that's fine. But they don't want to be the reason we got wiped out. Maybe it's bad karma, so who knows, but they don't want to be the reason, so they're strict about technology. And the other races really don't want to give it to us anyway because we're dangerous. We're liable to use it against them. We're dangerous. I mean, we can't even get along with each other. So let's say some poor schwa, let's just say one of the human aliens get a soft spot for Putin and give him some really cool laser weapons or some stuff that can wipe out whole cities. Yeah, what do you think he's going to do with them? Oh, we're going to think he's going to play nice? Oh, no. New York will be gone. D.C. will be gone. London will be gone. Paris will be gone. All of Ukraine will be gone because he just pissed at them in general. Oh, no. So it's just, until we become a united world, I just don't think they feel comfortable with giving us any kind of technologies. But the government's still going to try. That doesn't mean every chance they get, they're not going to try to find new technologies and be linked to new technologies. That's one of the reasons they track the military down on the outskirts, on out hopes that they might get something by accident. And from time to time they do. Sometimes they get a gift like a good psychic. So the Greys especially, but none of the alien races will let a psychic go work. Well, I shouldn't say psychic, but a good telepath will go work for the government unless they want to. Now, if they want to, they won't intervene. So if you're like a grade 1 telepath and all of a sudden you decide to want to work for Uncle Sam, the aliens will not step in your way. Interesting, but they won't. Now, if your dumbass grade 1 telepath goes and messes with one of their grade 1 abductees, other than yourself, then you might have a problem. Then they may decide to do something about it. Well, yeah, they don't care. As long as you're messing with humans and not other abductees, they don't care. Then it's hard to put it like this, but they're not concerned with the non-abduction part of the world. They're just not. They don't see it as anything but a hindrance to society. And it's weird because think of it this way: 45,000 years ago, 35,000 years ago, something introduced Rh negative into our blood. So it was less than 1%. Okay, 35,000 years ago. Today it's 15%. It's growing. Why? It's a baby killer. Why is it growing? Another 30,000 years, it might be 45%. 30,000 after years, it could be 75%. What is it doing? Is it mutating our society? We know it changes stuff. We know O negative is the purest form of blood known to man, and it's the universal donor. And that was just a gift. So this blood, whatever this blood came from, remember in the early days, it caused lots of baby deaths, still deaths, because positive saw the negative as invading disease and went after. So it killed a lot of babies. In the early days in the United States, even when I got married, you had to take a blood test to see if you were compatible, meaning that if one was negative and one was positive, which my wife and I were both, I was negative, she was positive, we had to get an antigen gene shot to have a baby. Yes. Oh, I know. And my son's positive, not negative. All three of us are O, but they're both positive and I'm negative. Yes, they both are too. So it goes back to the point: it doesn't matter if you're positive or negative; just have to be part of whoever they originally took. But for some reason, they felt the need to introduce this new blood type in, and they did. Because there's no reason that Mother Nature, a guy, would have introduced it. It's without some kind of check valve. It's just a baby killer. It would have started reducing the population, especially now that it's at 15%. Think about it at 50%, and it was killing the rest of the babies. I mean, it just could be a nightmare thing. Yeah, it's growing now. And we'll see. I mean, you mean, are there any differences between Rh negative and Rh positive people? Yes, there are. There are differences in personality and behavior. There's just differences. I don't know why. I'm not a scientist. I mean, maybe I got a degree, I got a bachelor's in science, but no, not in that kind of science anyway. Um, I don't know why they're like that. But it's a very significant thing because it's a significant thing for us. Without it, it's changed our lives. I mean, Rh negative has changed our lives. It's the purest known, it's where all of our hematological research comes from. It really helped us to really move forward with blood research. It helped us cure a lot of blood diseases. And then we were giving a universal donor, which means hospitals in slow times can be stocking up on blood. And the more Rh negative they have, the better, because they can use it for anybody's blood. Well, Jimmy, you're right. It is. AB negative and AB positive is the rarest bloods at 1.5%. But both of them can take Rh negative, which means technically they're around 8.5%. Rh negative people, like O negative people, can only take O negative. They cannot take any other blood. But all the rest of the blood types can. They can take all the other blood types can take Rh negative, but Rh negative can only take Rh negative. So technically it's the rarest form of blood. And there's a ghost floating down my hallway. It just floated down. It was very weird looking. I would have put the camera on it, but I might have thrown something at me. Yes. Yes, see. Don't mess with me. See what happened? Bob messed with me. See what happened to him? That's Bob the Gray. Oh, yes, that's Bob the Gray. He reconstitutes every once in a while. It's aggravating. You have to do it again. I know. But anyway, it's just teasing before anybody gets any ideas. It's not a real anything. It's a replica of something. See that? Hi, I am Bob. Do not screw with Joe, because I will come to your house. Yes, I will. Anyway, enough of that. That's what happens when you get too much caffeine, people. So let's get into part 2 of all this. Why doesn't the government know more than they do? One, it's hard to get this information from anybody. Do you want to talk to the government about this? I mean, if you've been taken or you've had an alien experience, do you really want to talk to the government? Yeah, well, hey there, G-Man, I want, especially today. I mean, when you look at what's going on in our country, or has been going on in our country now for about 10 years. Do you really want to talk to the government? No, you don't. You're worried about our government. You don't want to talk to our government. And nobody really wants to go around telling people they had an extraterrestrial contact. Even today, even with it being as popular as it is, people who have been taken don't want to come forward. One, they might lose their job. They might lose their husband or wife. Remember, a lot of times spouses don't know about this. Kids don't know about this. Yes, I mean, okay, let's say you've been married for 20 years. All of a sudden, one day, your husband goes, well, guess what's been happening to me? I've been being taken by extraterrestrials, and let me tell you what goes on. Now, here you're the wife, and you're going, really? Really? Baby, you want to seek some help? And you're like, no, this is real. And she's like, are you sure this is real? And you're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And you're like, 2 days later, you get a little round envelope, divorce papers in it. Because your wife thinks you lost your mind. Or vice versa for that matter. Okay, it could be daddy, and mama, I don't really care. It doesn't matter what it is. When you start talking about all these things that happen to you, sometimes your spouse is going to be like, oh no. They're going to be, I don't think so. It ain't going to happen. I don't want to be a part of this. I didn't know you were crazy. Why didn't you tell me this before we got married? And then all right, let's say they're calming down, and then you start telling them, well, if they're taking me, they're taking the kids. All right, that's just too much at this point. Your spouse is going, I want a divorce. You're insane, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to go see a lawyer and a doctor. You're crazy. You're never going to see the kids again, and you're going to pay out the ass. And, it's just dangerous. You just don't know what the reaction is going to be when you tell someone for the first time. People talk about coming out of the closet. It's one of the terms I used to use for abductees and contactees. It's like coming out the closet. You just don't know what kind of reaction you're going to get from an individual when you tell them, hey, I've had extraterrestrial contact. I have been taken. I've been on board a ship. This is what's happened to me. Just people freak out hard. Really, really hard. They have no idea what you're going to say, what your mama's going to say, what your daddy's going to say, what your aunt's going to say, your uncle, your grandma, anybody, your job, your boss, your friends. And if you go public, like most people, well, not most people, but a lot of people do, then you have no idea what kind of reaction you're going to get. I own my own businesses, so it's a little different for me. And if a customer says, well, Joe, you're a crazy bastard, I said, well, that's true. Do you still want me to do it for this price? And they're like, yeah. Because in the end, for them, they don't care that I'm a crazy bastard. It's just something they can talk about their rich friends with. I'm just their contract, and I need to take care of their job, and that's all there is to it. And, that's just one of the things of being... It's just one of the things of owning your own business. And I can always tell them to go take a flying what, because I don't need their business. So it puts me in a unique position, but most people don't have that option. Most people have to go, I got to be quiet, I can't say anything, I could lose my job. And I have known people who've lost their job over this before. I've never lost a job over ufology. I did lose a job over religion one time, but things happen. So it's hard. And so for the government to get you to talk is just, so then people say, well, they drug you, Joe. Well, sometimes they do. They use sodium androsol, sodium pentothal, and someone who's really good hypnosis, usually someone who's telepathic, where they can do a soft-pathic scan while they got you under the drugs. And that way, they go and find what they want and leave a soft memory behind and something that doesn't jar your brain too much. But that's if Mr. Gray or Mrs. Gray or Mr. Reptilian or Mr. Human doesn't object. A lot of times the abductors, I should say, object and will come in and pick up one of their people. They don't just allow everybody to be taken. It's really can't be against their will. If it is, that they will come remove them from the situation. So remember, these aliens keep a telepathic link with their abductees. So if something's going on or they're stressing, and all of a sudden it goes off, a little thing goes up in the Gray's head, he pops over there and sees y'all torturing he's going to kill all of y'all, or he's going to really make you wish you were dead. I've heard horror stories about things they put in your head, things that took weeks and months to get over. It's something right out of a sci-fi horror movie. It really is. So it's just hard for them to get the information they're looking for. And, we've talked about rogue grays before. And there does seem to be a small group of road graves, but they seem to be managed, I guess might be a better way of saying it. Even though they're out there, I think they're still limited to what they can or cannot do. Oh, here, you want to see it again? Hold on. Let's see. And it's Saturday, Sunday, and Monday pass. Yes, they're all different colors and stuff, yes. What do you mean you want to buy it? Send me something when I get offline. That threw me off guard. Caught me off guard, I should say. Okay, anyway, getting back. So here we are. We're sitting in D.C. We're trying to figure out why aliens are on our planet, why they're taking our citizens. We have several presidents that's known about it. At least 10 or 12 presidents, 15 presidents at least knew. Well, maybe not that. Maybe that eight presidents probably knew. But still, these presidents knew. Yet they didn't do anything to stop the abduction cases or the flying over. Congress has admitted now that they're pretty sure that whatever this is flying in the sky is not human. But they still don't know what the hell it is, and they don't even know how to find out what it is. For them to go public means they don't have anything. They need you to fill in the blanks. That's what this is about. That's what this YAP program is about. The UAP program is about is getting humans to fill in the blanks. Well, you can talk about your sightings till you're blue in your face. Sightings does not prove it's an extraterrestrial craft. You need either someone that was in the craft. You need the alien, but the alien's not going to go tell you. But if you can find someone who's been in one of the craft, then you can at least authenticate the craft and maybe some of the stuff on board the craft. And even get an idea of what kind of technologies we're talking about. Because a good friend of mine, one of the very first people who ever talked about the organic ships to gray shoes, she used to get Millad pretty regular. Matter of fact, her neighbor caught at least 2 times this happened on tape. Yeah, I'm surprised he's not floating in a river somewhere. But he put it on the internet and he released it to a bunch of places, so he kind of saved himself when he did that. But his security cameras caught it. And there was a oopsies on their part that they didn't see it and catch it. They basically, I don't know how they do it. We talked about this many times. It seems like they roll into like a block and just like gas the whole block, put everybody to sleep. What it seems like. It's not like a real fast. It doesn't like knock you out like immediately. It takes 15 or 20 minutes, but it does seem to put you to sleep. They just roll it out there and it's picked up through the air conditioning systems, or the heating systems, or the windows being open, whatever it may be. But it seems to work real well, whatever it is. I have no idea. I would have figured they would have done it a different way, but well, no, there was a couple of government people came out and talked about it and how they bring in these special helicopters that don't make any noise. And, they have these round platforms on them. They take them and bring them wherever. I said, why don't you just pick them up in a car? It never made any sense to me. It was just, why even gas them? Just go pick them up in a car. Dumbass. I really, I don't know. That kind of stuff just seems stupid to me. Like the cattle mutilations. Yeah, I get in trouble for cattle mutilations all the time, but that's just one of those things. I just came up with a better explanation for what they were doing with them, that's all. That's pretty widely accepted these days, but Well, no, because the people who make money on this will never change the way they believe. If you do ufology for money, which there's two or three dozen people who do. Well, let me ask you something. So you're going to do a conference for 1,000 people, and you're going to charge $360 per person. You know how much money that is? What do you need that for? And how much are you paying these people? And how much are you putting in your pocket from these people who are just trying to learn the truth? Yeah, well, I don't personally think a conference should be more than $100, $150 for the whole conference, unless you got dinner and drinks or something. I don't think it should be. I don't know. I'll tell you this, DragonCon. So the conference I was just talking about is $360 for 2.5 days. DragonCon was $160 for 5 days, and offered dude, 5 hotels running venues and the convention center, and then all kind of food and bars and things, events on the side. I mean, it was insane. It is well worth the money you're going to spend to go there because it's just outrageous. It is. It is outrageous place. The bang for the buck. I don't know if you can beat the bang for the buck. I really don't. I don't know. I mean, $160 for 5 days. That's. Well, actually, well, no, it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and Monday. It was a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Anyway, it goes. It was a great day. I mean, there was just so much stuff. Every hotel had things going. There was venues running all over. The only place, there's two things that was kind of rough. Going to where the expos were, where the vendors were, the line was 1.5 miles long. It wrapped around the hotel 1.5 times. So you had to go into the parking garage with it. It was so long. Yes, it was huge. And some of the lines to get T-shirts were pretty bad. Yes, but it was a lot of fun. It's worth $160. I mean, you got to pay more than that, but if you don't mind driving, you don't have to pay a lot for a hotel. I stayed at the Marriott downtown, but I was about 8 minutes away from where they were. I just hopped in the car, zipped over, and parked. Parking's a little high, $25 to $40 depending on where you park. Oh, any hotel you stay at downtown is going to be expensive. It doesn't even matter if you get a break in the room, the drinks, the food, everything downtown's expensive. Just know that. So if you want to go downtown, if you don't want to stay down there, don't stay somewhere else and eat outside of downtown. You'll be fine. You'll save all kind of money. Yeah. Well, you got to eat down these too. But anyway, so getting back to, I know we keep digressing into other things, but getting back to why the government doesn't know anything. Well, ET won't tell them, and the contactees won't tell them. So how are you going to learn anything? How do you know anything? Bits and pieces and scraps you find here and there, but that's not telling you anything. You can take all these different shows and run through algorithms and hope that a lot of these people know what they're talking about, but a lot of them are lying. A lot of them are lying. You mean the percent of people I think that lie that are abductees? I don't even know. In the early days when we first formed ICAR, it was 50-50. And then we made these the forums much longer and much more involved, and that dropped dramatically. It dropped to about 10 to 15% were fake. The rest were real. What was too much? If this had not really happened to you, odds of you filling out the entire form and doing it correctly was just really not going to happen. There was a lot of stuff. It was really involved. It was 95 questions, 75 to 95 questions with all kinds of stuff we wanted answered. There was lots of places you would have to write a couple of paragraphs. That was just a thing through it worked though. And it actually worked. Well, because I go on some of these websites for these so-called abduction researchers. They got like a 10 question form. They tell you, so I can hypnotize you in 20 minutes. Really? Oh, well, I want to see that. No, the whole session's 20 minutes. Hypnotize them and get the information and everything. Beware of charlatans is all I can say. It usually takes me a half an hour to put somebody under the way I want to. And that's if I'm in daily practice. I don't know. But they want to know the truth. The government's like us. They want the truth. They want to know what the hell's going on. It's not just the truth they're after. They're after the technology. And they're not the only ones. There are several billionaires in aerospace or millionaires in aerospace that also want the truth. And they're also looking for the truth. Because they're thinking that, well, look at who was it? Who was it that gave money to MUFON? Bigelow, right? Wasn't it Bigelow Aerospace that gave money to MUFON? So what they're looking for is technology. Remember, Bigelow owned the Skinwalker Ranch. So they're hoping that they can get technology out of this. Let me give this stuff to these people, and maybe they'll go out and find me some research, and we'll stumble across some advanced extraterrestrial technology. Or maybe an ET itself. Maybe that's what we'll do. We'll run across one, and we can get this technology. Well, I remember talking to James Cameron about this, who was director at the time. And all I can say is he was thoroughly disappointed by the people at MUFON. That archive's still available too, by the way. But mainly because they were doing stuff like expensive plane flights, expensive equipment on Bigelow's dime, and weren't producing anything. Oh, let's fly first class. Let's buy expensive cameras, expensive this, expensive that. Well, that's not what the man was after. He was after the truth. And if they would have pursued the truth and not pursued his money, they might still have someone giving them money today. But that's not what it was. I mean, they were after other. They just know what they were after. One, MUFON's not really an abduction organization. They're a lights in the sky organization. I know they got their star team, which is a joke. I've talked to several members of the star team, different ones over parts of different years that move around. It's just they don't really understand abduction criteria. They don't really understand what it is they should be looking for in abduction research. They're jimmy jabber, jumped around, they just, and I'm not hating on them, it's just, you really have to have a certain type of leadership, and you have to look at things like I do. You can't go into something assuming that, okay, it's an alien contact or this person's not lying. You have to go in with everything is suspect and prove that it's not, and then take that information and use it. That's how we got to the blood type study. That's how we got to the gray reptilian human studies. That's why we do this stuff, and no one else in the field does. No one does what ICAR does. Never has. And matter of fact, you will see a lot of them are carbon copies of what we do now. That's the only way you get into the truth. And that's, in the end, that's what this is all about. Finding the truth, finding the puzzle pieces. Finding out exactly what we can expect. Are they here just to watch the great calamity that's going to kill us all one day? When God tosses us all in the fiery pit of hell and wraps it up and throws it away? Is that what they're waiting to see? What do they believe in God? Well, I can't speak for them, but I would assume they don't believe in our God. Or what we consider God, might be a better way of saying it. I guess for them, since they're friends with the light beings, the grays are, I mean, that's like as close as you get to being a god without actually being a god. I mean, they have all the godlike abilities, so they can create, destroy, move through space and time, all with thought. So, as far as our standards go, they would be gods. Yes, I mean, what we label as gods, they would be one. But in reality, I guess they would be like Q on Star Trek. Actually, they'd be more advanced than Q on Star Trek, but still. But even then, they're not that interested in this planet at this point. People always say, "Oh, I've had great contact with the light beings." Really? They're a plasma-based being that even the Greys and Reptilians in them keep at least a couple of feet distance from, just because of the amount of energy they give off. Can you imagine them getting inside of it? They would burn you out like a circus. Now, maybe they could do like the Vorlons and take a little piece of itself and shove it in you and let it stay with you. But other than that, I don't. There could be no full merger. It's like when people tell me that they've merged with this type of alien or cosmic consciousness. They're such bullshit, people. Why would they even let you on their consciousness level? Really? When you say stuff like that, do you think you're on the same? Let's just be honest. Do any humans listening to this show think you're on the same level as the conscious of a gray or a light being? Really? Now that's an ego. Really? I mean, you're talking about rate. I mean, the light beings are billions of years old. The grays are at least a billion years old. But yet you think you're as smart as they are. Okay, and they say humans didn't have egos. I think we might be wrong about that. Well, that's the point. We're babies compared to them. I mean, seriously, we're babies compared to them. And you really think that they're going to give these kind of technologies to our governments when they know we can't even handle the ones we have? I mean, have you been reading the paper lately? Jesus, we're on the verge of World War III, and you want aliens to give us better weapons. Maybe we should ask them for better medical help, or cure diseases, or things like that, or help us with global or climate change, which they don't even seem to be interested in. Every now and then I'll get an abductee or contactee. They'll tell me, "Oh, they mentioned that we're killing ourselves." No, they say we're killing the planet. No, we're killing ourselves. That's how I know it's not an alien, because the alien's not going to say that. The alien's going to go, "You're killing yourself, you dumb human. Fix it." Because they know we can't actually kill the planet. The planet will survive no matter what we do. At least at the stage we are right now. Yeah. We could nuke the whole planet in 10,000 years. It'd be a nice, pristine planet. You know, with all kind of new creatures roaming around. Would we still be here? Maybe, maybe not. We wouldn't be the humans we are today. That's for damn sure. It'd be more like that movie, you know, a time travel movie. Orson Welles' time. Yeah, well, there you go. I'm sure it'd be more like that. But that goes right back to, so how is the government getting its information? If the aliens aren't telling them, and you're not telling them, and the contactees not telling them, all they can do is hope they get little bits and pieces of aircraft like Shag Harbor. Okay. So I love Shag Harbor. So these people are out messing around Shag Harbor in the evening time. This thing comes down. They think it's a plane, by the way. All the people who saw this thing come down Shag Harbor thought it was a plane. They reported it to the local authorities as a plane coming down. So all kind of people got in boats and got out there, and they were seeing this weird yellow foam and it's glowing underneath the water. And they were out there in boats, but they weren't finding anybody or any pieces or anything. Then they noticed this glowing thing started moving and went out through the channel and headed out to the Atlantic Ocean, where it parked for 7 days. There's lots of stories about this, but we did personally interview 3 divers who saw it, who were present at it while it was being there. So the government thought they had this thing. They had surrounded it with ships. They had said they did an unscheduled maneuver off the coast of Canada, and they were had divers going down. They had subs present. And I think they said it was like on the 5th or 6th day, another saucer showed up from underwater. Came by and put this blue light all over it. Things started up and it took off, and they just left them. Everybody just sitting there, just psh, they were both gone. Sounds like something out of not Avatar. What the hell? I guess it was crazy sounding, but yeah, you actually had divers who actually were willing to go on radio and talk about it. But the government didn't get any information out of it. All they got some pictures and stuff. They know what it looks like. They got close to it, but they didn't get inside. They don't know if any weapons or propulsion. And that's what they're after. For some reason, the aliens are not willing to share this with them. The aliens are like, to you. To you. I can't use a regular thing. There might be some youngins watching. Who? Martha. Who's Martha? Which Martha? Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. You better make up your mind. No, indeed. Boy, somebody would crack over there for sure. Man. Hold on.
Tune in to UFO Undercover, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, with your host, Joe Montaldo, right here on the Paranormal Radio Network. You're listening to UFO Undercover with your host, Joe Montaldo, right here on the Paranormal Radio Network.
Welcome back, everybody. That was quick and painless. Look at that. Getting everybody used to those breaks coming back. I hope y'all enjoyed those promos. Damn thing's as old as I am. So, what does the Pentagon know? Not much. What does the White House know? Not much. What presidents knew? So, let's go backwards. Well, Biden don't know. Trump wanted to know. Obama didn't know. Baby Bush may be known because his daddy was the head of the CIA, vice president for 8 years and president for 4 years. So he probably knew. Reagan definitely knew because Reagan's the one who kept going around giving speeches. So if Reagan knew, Bush knew. So baby Bush may have known. It might have been why they went back to Iraq. Because there was a bunch of rumors going around, and the first time we went to Iraq that we were looking for something. So they're saying that's why Bush went back, and so we could find it. Well, we all went back because of 9/11. That's why we went back. But first time we went was because of Kuwait. Second time we went was because of Iraq. Because of the Twin Towers, but still. You know, I was talking with a friend of mine the other night about 9/11. I'm going to do a refresher show on this in a couple of weeks. I'm going to bring up some of the new research, some of the new witnesses, some of the new theories and some of the new experts on what happened on 9/11. Yes, that's just to aggravate my friend. That's all. Y'all just gonna have to listen. No, I'm just teasing. But no. I mean, about the show. No, I'm gonna do one for real. It's just time for one. It has to be brought up to speed. So here's the Pentagon thinking, what the hell? I need information. So maybe the Congress can get it. So they're like, okay, let's release some of all this military stuff we found. I mean, I've been talking to pilots for decades, man. I mean, pilots see them all the time. When I was on a Nimitz, they see them all the time. It's not unusual for not just fighter pilots, for commercial pilots. They just don't talk about them because they don't want to lose their job. But they're seen fairly regular. I mean, there's been videos taken in airplanes before. So I mean, it's not that they're not being seen. But the problem for me has always been the same thing. Who is seeing them? Okay, I never understood why there'll be X amount of people in somewhere, but only like 10% or 15% will see them. It's always bothered me. When I was younger, it used to really drive me crazy. And I figured out, I don't really think you can see them unless you've already been touched, meaning that you've been taken. I think really only contactees see them. That's probably one of the reasons it's so hard to get them out there, because it's such a small percentage of the population that are seeing them. Because, I mean, you have the Phoenix Lights. Phoenix is a big city, but still, only X amount of people see them. Just a few hundred, a few thousand people seeing them in a city with the size of 2 million. Why is that? Mexico City, you had one hover in Mexico City for a full 24 hours. Over 1 million reports in a city with 22 million people in it. The mayor saw it, the police chief saw it, a bunch of priests seen it. But still, why the other 21 million people? New York City, the ambassador, the people in the streets saw this lady being taken out the window, but and then seen the ship just float across New York sky and no one else saw it. Why? I mean, what's going on here? Why are only X amount of people seeing these things? I would bet you it's because they've been taken. I don't know if you can see it if you haven't been taken. Or if you haven't been touched by a craft. I don't know, because it doesn't seem, I mean, if they're flying all over our skies and there's more cameras today than there's ever been in the history of the world. I mean, everybody's got a cell phone, at least 4 billion to 5 billion of us got cell phones, which all of us 5 billion active cameras, and we're not getting any more pictures than we did in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Somebody out there, we're getting way more. No, actually we're not. We're actually still getting less. 50s and 60s were probably some of the insane amount of video that came out, or I should say, insane amount of pictures came out. Billy Myers. I kind of forgot about Billy Myers. It's been a long time since I talked about Billy Myers. If y'all know who Billy Myers is an alleged contactee who has got great photos of UFOs, some of which I'm pretty sure are real. Some of which, though, I'm thinking may be fake. No, I just think he waned, and so he faked stuff. Sometimes you finally just do that. They not that they're trying to lie. It's just people lose interest, and so they fake stuff that makes people get interested in it. And sometimes they get busted. Somebody told me one time he's only got one arm. What's I got to do with it? You can draw with your other arm. You can take pictures with your other arm. I mean, the problem for him is there was definitely some good stuff and there was definitely some fake stuff. And there's no doubt about it. And Michael Horn and I debated this many, many times, but in the end, he lied and he got busted. And I don't know what it's going to do for his, well, he's an old man now, so I don't even know what's going on with him anymore. But he had a lot of messages, a lot of stuff. Well, he said he was all kind of people too, so go read him on. Yeah, it's a fun read. At the very least, it's a fun read. Oh yeah, I think he thought he was Gandhi and a few other people. Oh yeah. Well, something else you can do when you get involved with abductees and contactees, they have a tendency to make it about them when it's not. It's about the alien contact. And what happens there is generally when it's everything that comes out is me. It's usually not real. It's usually fake. Not always, but usually. People have a need to hoax. It's not that they have a need to hoax. They have a need. They need that attention. They need that. Oh, let me touch you. I love you. I need that admiration. Sorry. Admiration. I'm not even going there with that joke, my friend. I don't know. But I know that. What do you mean, Jimmy Carter? No, the Peanut Boy. Did Jimmy Carter? No, Jimmy Carter saw something, and he asked when he got in, but he was like Clinton. They never told him. For some reason, they don't like telling Democrats about it. I don't understand that, but they don't like telling Democrats about it. At least not in recent times, because none of them are known. You mean Kennedy? I don't think they even tell first term anybody. It's not even Republicans. And I don't think Kennedy knew. Dwight Eisenhower probably knew. So that might be the first Democrat you can get to. But really, after that, it's pretty much been Republicans. Reagan and George and Big W knew for sure. Some people thought Nixon knew. Other than that, I don't think anybody else knew. If Baby Bush knew, it was only because his daddy felt sorry for him, or his daddy still had him looking for something. Yeah, so who knows for sure. Well, I wish the government would release something that was solid and strong, but they're not releasing anything, are they? They're trying to get you to give them stuff. Well, American citizens, help us define what these things are. Yeah, okay, we're already doing that. Thank you very much. For I can't even tell you how many 100 years now. Well, Blue Book. How much time we get? You got a couple seconds. So it was. I think it was Signs. It was Signs, Grudge, and Blue Book, or Grudge, Sign, and Blue Book. I get them confused, but there was 3 different ones the government actually did. 3 different UFO programs: Signs, Grudge, and Blue Book. By the way, there were 800 cases in Blue Book that were totally unexplained, and the person who wrote in there said that, who was it, Heinrich? Was it? Anyway, one I met actually wrote in there saying that the original explanation was probably the plausible explanation, meaning that it was probably an extraterrestrial craft. So we've been telling our government for a long time at ET, it's not just that. You go back to the Wild West days, they've actually got people who are looking into it for our government. And I'm pretty sure if you go back to the 1500s and all, you'll see lots of artwork with aliens, extraterrestrial craft in the skies. And remember, people, anything over 200 years ago that's in the sky is of most interest. If it's not a bird, it's nothing else, because they didn't have anything else that flew more earlier than that. I think when was it, about 200 years ago that hot air balloon started flying. So anything before that is most interesting. And there was a lot of things flying around the sky. You see lots of artwork. I think there's over 500 pictures they've discovered with religious pictures, by the way, with things flying in the sky, like crafts. You'll see these round things, or these orb-looking things, or these saucer-looking things with something sitting inside of it, usually a person of some sort. So they've been around for a long time. But I know we got to get out of here, guys, because we got to wrap up. Jimmy Lee. Oh, yeah, Jimmy Lee. Oh, hey, man, how you been? Yeah, you from Chicago, I remember. Just took it a minute for it to register in my head. You walking down Main Street. You know, Jaime Maussan's got a lot of stuff. And I don't want to say everything he's got. He's got a lot of hoax stuff. I'm not going to lie, but there's some stuff that I think is real. I think every once in a while they get lucky down there, because the aliens move more freely in South America than they do up here. One, they ain't got all them cameras all over the place, and the citizens have a different attitude towards it than we do. And remember, Americans carry guns. A lot of us carry guns, including myself. So it just may be safer. I don't know, but there does seem to be a lot of photos and videos that come out of down there, and some of them, from what I know, the description of a real grave is that description. And since no one's actually made it completely public yet, it's interesting to me. So yeah, check him out. I'm not, he's got some good stuff. Dr. Stephen Greer. You know what? Make your own decisions. Make a decision and come see me. And if it's a wrong decision, I'll let you know. How's that? I think he's done some good stuff, and I think he's done some questionable stuff. Yes. That's just my honest opinion. Who? Don't know who that is. Bruce, you mean Bruce McAfee? Yeah, Bruce is fine. You can trust anything he tells you. Some of the female ufologists are good, and some of them are not. Yes. Some are just in about the money. But you should be able to figure that out on your own. Again, if you get in the bind and can't figure it out, you can always write me at iCarTalks.net. Stephen Bassett, I love Stephen Bassett. Um, Stephen helped me out in the field in the early days. I really do. Stephen has always been a great guy. Yes, always. I wish he would do the X conference again. I love the X conference. I like speaking there. I like attending it. I always had a lot of fun. I wish he would. He's always been a good guy. Oh, you're talking about the September 1st thing, the when Dr. Greer did all the witnesses. It's still available. You can find it. We got copies of it somewhere, but it's still available. You can get it. I'd go listen to it, and you know what? It would be good to listen to it now, knowing what we know about a lot of what was said there. There was a lot of disinformation in there, but there was a lot of good stuff in there too. Well, when you have this many people and you have the government trying to keep you off balance, there's always going to be disinformation. You can't really get past that. I mean, that's just par for the course. But I know, guys, we got to go. Coming up next is the Outer Realm with the Fabulosis. Yes, the Fabulosis, Michelle DeRoche and Emilia Passano. Yes, that's two of my favorite people. Yes, I'm waiting for Halloween. I want to see what Michelle dresses up like. Herself. You're right, too. She's great. Don't forget, if you want one of those 5 books or the 6 books, there's going to be 6. It's Amelia. It's Amelia. It's Emily Goodwin. I don't know. I flipped the 2 girls' names back for the whole time. Emily Goodwin. I want to know, you know what? Maybe we should do who she's married to and who she works for. Maybe we should do that. Anyway, just write to me and let me know. You know, when you write, it's going to be the first 5. Yeah, first 5 people. I might already be too late, but I don't know. But write in anyway. iCarCox.net, and I will send you out a book. You never know. I might send out a couple extras. I got a case of 10 sitting at my feet right here. So, I got 20 boxes of cases in here of those. Anyway, on that note, I got to go again. Thanks for listening to United Public Radio and UFO Undercover. It's a great night for everybody, and I hope enjoy your lifestyle and have some fun and get out. Oh, and on one side note, I will be in Utah at the end of the month for Fan X for any of my friends up in Utah. On that note, good night and stay tuned for the Outer Realm. Dun, 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 dun.